Welcome to the premiere show of Behind the Scenes with Sandy Castell and James Kelly. I'm Sandy Castell.
And I'm James Kelly. Our guest for today's show is going to be David Saxe. David, are you online?
Yes.
All right, David, we're going to get to you in just a minute, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Before we introduce David, we would like to tell you about the show and give you a little background about ourselves.
All right, every other week we will go behind the scenes for the movies, events, and shows and more here in Las Vegas and beyond. And we're going to talk to people who bring it all to life, the stagehands, the artists, the producers, the directors, the actors, dancers, writers, and singers. Together we will take on an informative look at what it takes to produce what the world wants to see, as well as the history and how it all came about. Behind the Scenes will broadcast live here on KLAV every Tuesday at 2 o'clock p.m. or every other Tuesday at 2 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Sorry.
That's okay.
Go ahead, Sandy.
Did you?
And let's talk a little bit about your career. How did you get started in this business?
Oh, I've been in the business since I was a little girl. My dad's a musician. He brought us here in 1963 when he was playing with Harry James. And I've been singing ever since. Every opportunity I've had. I've been in performances on the Strip and traveled around the country and different parts of the world. I'm a Miss Nevada, 1976. And I'm I'm the founder of WEMA, Women in Music and Arts, which is an organization empowering artists of all ages through education and mentorship.
Well, and as far as myself, I grew up in Missouri and Oklahoma, and I started off to be a teacher and changed my mind. I started writing in the late 80s, and then I came out with my first book, The Emblem, in 1995. From there, that progressed into a publishing company. I've had a couple of those along the way. I have a recent book that's getting ready to be re-released called The Alien Transcripts. I decided to do science fiction for a change. And I've had various jobs throughout the years, not in the industry as far as entertainment goes. And let's see, I currently host my own radio show, Aspects of Writing, here on KLAV, and I co-host another radio show called The Pooch with Style Show with Julie Lascano.
Oh my gosh, if you are just tuning in, you're listening to Behind the Scenes with Sandy Castell and James Kelly here on KLAV in Las Vegas, Nevada, the entertainment capital of the world. We can be heard live on the internet at KLAV1230am.com on your computer. And we are streaming live on WordPress, Google+, Tumblr, Facebook, and YouTube. Just go to youtube.com, Aspects of Writing, and click on the featured button on the player.
So David, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. How about if you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Just born and raised here in Las Vegas. My mom was a dancer in Folies Bergère. My dad was a band leader for all the shows around town, Rat Pack and all that. My sisters were both dancers. One was in Siegfried and Roy show and saw how they were doing all their tricks and said, I could do this and I could add dancing to it. So she became a magician. We put a show, whole family put a show around her, and she Melinda, First Lady of Magic, and most famous female magician of all time.
Yes, absolutely.
And yeah, go ahead.
She actually had a special, I believe, on television that I saw.
Oh, yeah. We did a Disney CBS special in 98, I think it was.
And that was Melinda, the First Lady of Magic.
Yeah, and I was always doing behind-the-scenes stuff, setting up the bands for conventions and things growing up, and running sound and doing all the technical stuff because I didn't want to be on stage. I'm the only one in my family who has stage fright, and I just grew up around the business and I loved it, and then wanted to kind of fell into it, but always wanted to produce shows, and so I've just been producing shows since I've been in high school, and I've had, I think, more shows than anybody in Vegas history, but all of them together probably make about as much as one Cirque show. But
well, hey,
that's impressive, though.
But yeah, so I've taught at UNLV for 7 years. I was an adjunct professor of hotel entertainment. I've just done a lot of stuff in the community, and
you're married to Dr. Elena Saxe.
Yeah, my wife is an orthodontist in Summerlin, and she's awesome. I have 3 kids, and boy, girl, boy. They're, oh my gosh.
That's Camden, Simon, and Tristan.
Camden, Simone, and Tristan.
Simone,
and I always mess their ages up in the summer because they're summer babies. So it's like right now they're all off by weeks. So we've got 11, 8, and 4. But it's about to be 11, 8, and 5.
Oh my gosh.
So it depends on the week we ask. They're all every week.
You have your hands full. I can't believe it.
I have my hands full.
I mean, how do you manage to do all these shows while you've got all these adorable children at home?
It's tough. I will tell you, it is hard. I try to bring them around all the time, just like my parents did with me, and bring them backstage, and it's fun. But it is tough. Lately it's been very challenging. I have 2 theaters, Saxe Theater at Miracle Mile Shops and Planet Hollywood, as well as V Theater, and just managing. We're just growing and growing, and I've got about 350 employees now, and it's just getting crazier and crazier. So I'm even as we're doing the interview, I've got a line out the door of interviews for new hires. We're expanding, and people staring at me through my office window here. My life is crazy, but I wouldn't trade it. I'm having a great time. I love it.
How many shows do you currently have running?
Well, I have ones that I've created and produced myself that are 100% mine, so a handful of those, and then third-party shows that either already existed or I had part of helping with them and do most of the marketing or some kind of partnership. So all combined, I'm sort of producing about 13, 14 shows, something like that.
So, David, who comes up with the concepts for your shows?
If it's my shows, it's me. Some I've done in the past just out of, I thought there was something missing in the marketplace. Like I tried a country show once called Buck Wild. I put it at the Sahara Hotel, and I had an idea for it to be family, and then the hotel told me it had to be topless, so I tried to go topless, and it didn't work, and I'm like, dang it. But
well, maybe they should have stuck with family, yeah.
I think so, but I thought country would work because country is huge on the radio and all that, and NFR and all the bull riding stuff that comes to Vegas. I figured it would be big, but it was tough. It might have been the property, but it was a great show. And so not everything I've done has worked, but I've tried shows that I thought would be good from a marketing standpoint, and then I've done shows that are just I'm passionate about and believe in. The Ultimate Variety Show was my tribute to all the specialty acts. That's my favorite part of all the shows. No disrespect to Follies Bergère or any of those big production shows, but I used to love as a kid when all the specialty acts would come out, and even Siegfried and Roy were a specialty act, and all these great acts, and I just loved specialty acts, so I created that. Just nothing but specialty acts. And then Vegas the Show is my big tribute to Vegas entertainment, live orchestra. I want to bring back the whole way Vegas used to be with showgirls and the entertainers that made Vegas Vegas with Elvis and all that. And Vegas the Show is like a big Broadway musical about Las Vegas. It's the story of Vegas, and sorry, I'm talking a lot, but
well, that's great. No, because Sandy, you grew up in this business as well with your father, so you can totally relate.
I'm glad you're doing that. I'm really glad you did that show because I've heard nothing but great things about it. And unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to see it. I've had so many crazy things, but I want to come and see it because, like you said, I grew up in this town and I watched all those shows, and that's the kind of thing that I felt that we were missing for a while, and now you've brought it back. And the dancers are excited about it, the musicians are excited about it, and the audiences are excited about it.
I love it. I put the show together. It didn't even make sense on paper because I'd have to almost sell out every show to break even, and it didn't make any sense. And I've got 75 people running each show. It's a huge cast and crew, and I just said, this is it. I'm tired of. I guess this is just my life story of my dad passed away 10 years ago of ALS, and it was just my big, and I just hear of all these people, there's no more dancers anymore, and everyone's out of work, and it's all, no offense to Cirque, but it's all, unless you're a French clown doing flips on a trampoline, you can't get a job. And I said, that's it. I want to bring back what Vegas is really about, which is raw talent, where a dancer can be a star, and
you want to entertain people.
And with the bands, with the orchestras, because that was really key. I mean, my dad's a musician, plays saxophone, and he was in those orchestras that were playing for all those big stars, when they were on stage.
Right.
And and then we went through the 80s, and then it was like the duos, and then they were playing, piano and sequencing and guitar, and that was it. Even my father said, here I am, 50 years old, and I've got to learn how to play guitar. What's wrong with this picture?
Well, I remember when the keyboards came out, and I was a big techie. I got MIDI keyboards and all this stuff, and I came in, my dad was practicing saxophone, and the musician strike was going on. And they're all sad. I didn't quite gather what was going on, and I said, Dad, check this out. I can make it sound like a saxophone, and I'm playing it on the keyboard, and of course it sounded terrible. It was like dun, 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 dun. And he said, "Oh, that's terrible." He goes, "This is what's killing us. These keyboards and all this." And I just remember teasing him. I thought it was funny and say, "We're going to take over, and all this tech stuff's going to render you guys useless." And little did I know, it did, and here I am trying to redeem, because there's nothing like a live band.
The live productions, and Sandy, when you do your recordings, yours is live productions, or most of them.
Oh,
Not
no!
all?
In the recording studio, you do. They're playing live. Yes, they are. But then you always, even though I do a scratch vocal, we still go back in. And redo the vocal.
Right. Yeah.
And then they come in and they lay down the solos. That's what happens. But David, I'm so glad you are bringing it back. Now, do you have any new productions in the works right now?
I've got about 3 shows I'm trying to put together quickly here for various venues. I can't disclose them yet, but
okay.
Yeah. Creatively, I'm just dying to get going on all these show concepts I've had, and I'm very fortunate to have my own place and machine in place to really promote them and give them a fair shot. So I'm at a really exciting time. Because there's so many people that have amazing show concepts, and they know it'll work, and they just don't have the resources or don't know the industry, and luckily it's all combining for me now and making more and more shows, and I can put them together, and I don't know, it's fun.
Sandy raised her hand. She volunteered for a show for you.
Yeah, I volunteered. Okay. We all have ideas, like you said. I have an idea.
I love it.
Yeah.
So it's funny, I get pitched all the time,
I'm
shows
sure.
and stuff, and it's sometimes, once in a blue moon you get a really exciting concept pitched to you, but the other day I had the funniest one. Some guy said, "I've got a show, but I want you to sign a non-disclosure before I pitch it to you." And I said, "Well, I don't want to do that because it might create a weird legal thing, and someday you're going to blame me for stealing it, but I can promise you I've never stolen. I won't do that. I haven't done it. I pitched everything. I doubt you can come up with something." He said, No, I promise you no one's ever thought of it. And I go, "Well, you're just going to have to take the risk. I can't do that. I don't want to be sued. I get sued for everything all the time."
Right.
I don't. And so, all right, I'm going to tell you. So he says, "It's a Michael Jackson impersonator show."
Oh, my goodness. That's never been thought of, ever.
So I pull up. I go, "Buddy, I just want to tell you something." I pull up on my email. I said, "You're the 5th today."
And
I showed him 5 pitches I already had that day.
Oh my gosh!
Already of that, I go, "There's no new idea for the most part. It's like just executing it." But yeah.
Well,
anyway.
David, I'm going to pitch our show here. If you're just tuning in, you are listening to Behind the Scenes with Sandy Castile and James Kelly right here on KLAV, 1230 a.m. on the dial in Las Vegas. And on your computer, you can find us on the internet at KLAV1230am.com. Our guest is producer David Saxe. And if you have questions for the panel, please call us locally at 702-731-1230. Or if you are out of the area, you can reach us at 1-866-820-5528. And David, are there any big changes in store for any of your current productions? Because I know there's always new changes in cast and everything.
Yes, I haven't. I think you're the first to hear it. I haven't disclosed this to anybody, but we're putting I'm going to put a Siegfried and Roy number in Vegas to show. We have.
Oh, wow.
I've wanted to do that since day one and really pay respect to them and do it in a big way. Most people would spoof it and make it funny, but they're such a big part of Vegas, and I would really love to. Vegas, the show, is not an impersonator show at all. It's an ensemble cast who takes you back sort of and shows you why Vegas is worth saving, so to speak, and just showing them all the great things about Vegas. So we're adding that and the glass pool in the thing. So we're doing a big bikini swim number fun thing with the glass pool and adding a lot of new stuff. It was a very ambitious project, and I put it together. Took over the theater and put the whole show together in a matter of a few months.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I didn't get half the stuff in I wanted to get in, so finally I'm getting around to it now and going to make the show even better.
David, you're not the one who took the signage from the glass pool, are you? I don't know if you read it in
No.
the paper, but a couple
No.
of weeks ago there was a big thing about how it disappeared. They were going to put it in the museum, that we have. The
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they couldn't find it. It got lost somewhere along the way.
Oh, yeah.
No, but that would be a good PR stunt. You want to see it again, you have
Just
to buy a ticket to
recreate
the
it
show.
and say you took it.
Maybe that's in the secret hidden in
Sell
fine
tickets.
print. So, David, what has been your most challenging production to date?
Probably Vegas the show, just because the enormity of it, and I actually wrote lyrics and songs and many things I haven't really done in the past. Technically, I've always been musically inclined and all that, but this was my baby, and I just, from moment one, I really put my heart and soul into it, and it was tough because when you just have a gut feeling of something, but then everyone's kind of going against you and telling you it won't work, and I've I had a lot of that, and then I just did it, and then I don't know if I got lucky or it's experience, but it paid off and it worked, and then that's just a tough thing to do when everyone's telling you no, and then you just have that gut feeling inside that something's going to work, and you just go with it, and then it pays off, and so it was challenging in that.
Well, sometimes you just have to let determination take over, and if you're determined to do something, you just do it. And it sounds like you have a lot of determination.
And I think you have a passion for it, David. And I think
Absolutely.
that's when I have this theory, and I have this song that I wrote, and it's called "Don't Tell Me I Can't." So it falls right into that. But too many times, we've been told we can't and we won't and we never will do anything, or that you're too old, you're too young, you don't fit the image, yada yada yada.
Sure.
And here you are. You've had so much experience that now you were able to take your dream and do it. And
Absolutely.
Here you are, and it's being successful.
It's a tough business, I got to say. We're in the worst economy ever, and Vegas is worst hit and worst real estate market and number one bankruptcies, and it's all depressing. And then entertainment is such a hard industry in itself, and and then I'm independent. I don't have support from the MGM Mirages and Harrah's group, and I'm not subsidized by casino. Like, just everything's against me, and I work 10 times harder to make everything work, and I'm employing more people, and then sometimes it just feels like the world's against you. My dad used to joke, if you really want to make a musician mad, give him a job.
Yeah.
None of the musicians ever complain, but I'm just saying, it's tough, managing, and it's like being a cat wrangler, and we have a lot of there are some divas that you got to deal with, and it's a very tough job.
Well, that's
in this economy, but
just
I love
the
it.
nature of that business. Yeah.
You get a lot of kudos from all of us in the industry for going, for going against those people that were naysayers and doing it anyway, because we're just so excited that you have done it. And
I want you guys to see the show. I hope you.
Absolutely. And
Hope you
David,
like
I
it.
want to ask you, because you just brought up how the economy is affecting the shows. So would you say that's one of the toughest challenges you have in marketing your shows, is trying to market it to the new audience, I guess you could say, for Vegas now, or?
Fortunately, I recognized, even when I was in high school, that it's not about the show, it's about butts and seats and marketing, and so I've always wanted to have the greatest product in the world, but if you spend all your time on that, and you're playing to an empty house, so I've been very fortunate and good, I think, at marketing and getting butts in seats, so we've been packed, and we're beating all the odds, and very, very fortunate about that to keep that part going. But I want to go down the show every night and tinker and play, and I only get there every 3 weeks or so, and then they call me Charlie from Charlie's Angels because they never saw him. So people say, "Hello, Charlie." And I feel terrible. It's like what I really want to do. I don't want to be dealing with all the other stuff all the time. I got into this business because I love being creative, but it's a business, and you got to do it literally 20 hours a day. I work, and most of it's on selling tickets.
Yeah, it is. Well, if you're just tuning in now, you're listening to Behind the Scenes with Sandy Castell and James Kelly, right here on KLAV 1230 on the AM dial in Las Vegas. And we are going to take a station break now for our sponsors. Welcome back, David.
Hello, David.
I just realized 12:30 a.m. is the station that I called when I was about 8 years old and requested Star Wars theme.
Ah.
And I remember it was my first call into a radio, and I requested it, and the guy said, he goes, "What are you, stupid?" He goes, "It's already playing." And I never called back. I never called another radio station
until
again.
now.
I was so humiliated. Until now, I just had regression. I'm going to cry.
No. we hope we make you feel a little bit better than he did.
Yeah, we don't want you to leave this show with tears in your eyes. So.
Too late.
So, David, what has been the biggest surprise from your shows that you think you've experienced?
Well, and as a whole, just all the collection of shows that I've done, I think the biggest surprise has just been audience. Well, it's not a surprise. I guess I'm just pleasantly surprised, but expected it. Just audience reaction. I build all of my shows based on the audience. The audience is my boss. But everybody always said, "Oh, you're the boss. It's easy being the boss." I'm like, no, everyone has a boss. I'm telling you, the audience is all our bosses, and I have to really make sure that audience just loves it and goes crazy. And then there's two types of going crazy. There's you can be a cheerleader type show, and then they go crazy, but they forget about you the next day because there's no substance. And then there's the talk about you the next day, and at the lunch, and then the table next to you here's the conversation, and they too want to go see the show. So I really need response during the show where people go crazy, and response the next day when they're talking about it. So it just really impacted them. And writing to achieve both of those is my goal. And I'm just proud of the fact that the audiences really love the show, even if it's not the biggest productions as Cirque or some of these. The customer satisfaction I'll put up against any show in town ever, because we hear it every night how they're the best shows. So I just love that consistently the audiences have really loved and given standing ovations for my shows.
Well, that's nice.
You know what that reminds me of, David, what you just said? It reminds me of, was it the 90s when we were listening to the music and it was so processed? Remember, it started having that real processed, so production-oriented, remember?
Yes.
And people just kind of started tuning out, and then it was like, let's hear the real musicians again, the sounds, the real musicians.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of that exists with the, no offense to Justin Bieber and all that, but there's processed music, and that's an art form to make it sound good too, I guess, having a vision to do layers after layers after layers and all that. But
it is a different style, but I'm just saying what you've done is you've pared away all the other stuff instead of the big huge, like you said, not the biggest production, but it's almost like bringing it back to that intimate feeling that we grew up with, where you had that connection more with the performers than you do when it becomes this big huge production.
I always say with the shows and design and all that stuff we do, it's perfection is not how much more you can add. It's when you can't take anything else away from it. Right. I like to break it down to the most raw form, and then it's perfect,
Right. So I know this is going to be a tough question to answer, but I'm sorry, but we got to ask. What do you consider your greatest accomplishment career-wise?
Staying in business this long.
Good answer.
Having Teflon. I'll come home. I'm not kidding. I mean, it's tough. Believe me, I'm no Jesus, but I'll say the story. I'll say if Jesus came back from the dead and said, "I want to be a show producer," every other show producer in town would go, "I hate him. He's a jerk." and then he has an audition, and all of the 100 dancers show up, and he says, "Ladies, you were all fantastic. I can only hire 10, so I'm going to pick these 10." 90 of them walk away and go, "What a jerk." Then the 10 that you have, the 2 show up late the first day, and you say, "Oh, ladies, please, try not to show up late anymore. It's very important." Jerk. It's like every step of the way. It's just very hard to manage all this and not. You gotta have thick skin. Then there's people. Then finally, when I got successful, you never really believe those stories like about people who have fake lawsuits and all these different things, people attacking them, trying to get money from them. You always think, oh yeah, I'm sure that celebrity, where there's smoke, there's fire. I'm sure they did something. Well, I can tell you firsthand, I've had about 20, 30 lawsuits in my days, and every one of them I won, and every one of them were lies. I had people got stuck in an elevator, which was our fault, but they said it caused them to have cancer and multiple sclerosis.
Oh my goodness.
Elevator. I've had, you name it, every type of lawsuit in the world, people trying to get money. It's just boy, there's some awful people
So that's
out there.
the price you pay for fame.
And it's you do get Teflon a little bit about it, but it's hard. I'll come home some days and my wife will go, I can't believe, I heard she hears more about me from the news than we get to talk because we're so busy. And she'll say, how are you handling that? Because she'll know people are lying, and I go, it's fine, baby, but sometimes I just want to go curl up in a ball and just go. But it does get to you sometimes. That is the tough part.
All right, I have another question for you.
Yeah.
What would you like to be remembered for after all your long career?
Being alive.
Just your existence.
So
I'm not old enough yet to be thinking about that.
Well, I know, but you're doing all these shows, like you said, and you obviously are conscientious about what you're putting out there. Like you said, there's shows for different audiences, and but you're keeping that in mind. It sounds like. So
you know what? I guess what I want to be known for. I don't know if I care what I'm known for, but I would love for one day all these people to appreciate who I've employed, that I don't need for myself personally to do more or anything. Every penny I make, I just put right back in, create another show. I love employing people. I know so many people out of work and talented, amazing performers, and I genuinely feel bad that the industry has changed and performers have to market themselves and learn new skill sets. It's just, I know George Wallace and tons of performers, and I go, and George is fine handling marketing himself. He actually has a degree in it and is fantastic. But I just think that performers should just have to worry about their craft and not putting butts in seats. And I feel bad that there's so many talented people that don't have a show right now who should. And so I'm always trying to just keep everybody employed, and maybe everybody thinks I'm just out for it for myself, but I really am out for it to keep everyone employed, keep this going. I love entertainment, and maybe someday people realize the stats and the results and go, wow, he did more shows, employed more people, got this, paid everybody, never a problem.
Well, I have two
I think you're well on
questions
that way, on your way to that, because of all the shows that you've already produced. Sorry,
Yeah,
James.
I was just going to say, you were talking about you've written almost all your shows, or at least the concept of them, and I was just wondering, how involved are you in the art behind it?
Extremely. Vegas to show, I called, I have a great friend, Tiger Martina, who's living in New York. He's a choreographer, director, and I brought him out because he and I just told him, I said, I have this concept, I want to put a show together. It's the story of our life, man. Because we'd always talk about how dancers don't take class anymore, and people aren't doing their craft anymore, and they all think they're working hard because they do 3 shows a week. And we joke about it, and it's like, let's put a show, let's do this. I told him my concept, and he loved it, and he said, yeah, let's instill that in everybody again. And so it was collaboratively, he worked his butt off on the show as well, and he creatively, I loved bounce. I can't dance at all, and I can kind of like just show basically what I'm talking about, but it's just such a delight to creatively work with somebody who gets me and understands
what's
my
the matter?
weaknesses.
What do you mean, David? You can't dance?
I'm like the worst white boy dancer in the world. I'm awful. I guess, my mom says if I really tried, I probably could. But I think I have it in the genes there somewhere, but I just can't. I can't dance serious. I have to. It's just too goofy for me. I hate performing. It's too nerve-wracking. It's like a nightmare I always have. That my reoccurring nightmare is I'm doing stand-up and I have no material, and everyone's staring at me, and I'm trying to make up jokes, and it's awful. But creatively, I love figuring out what's gonna get the audience going. constantly writing other people's acts and helping people out. Like Gordie Brown, his very first show ever was in my show. First job ever was in Melinda's show in like 1988, 87 or something like that. And I worked with him and wrote half his act with him, and at that time, and it's my favorite thing is writing, and I just wish I had more time to do it. I love it. I love writing.
You know, I think that James should have you on, just
Absolutely.
Totally unrelated, but I think that James should have you on his writing aspects of writing show, and you guys, because then you guys could just talk about the writing aspects.
Yeah, because that's an aspect I haven't covered yet, is writing for productions.
That's right.
So that would be great. Because we actually, on that show, we cover every aspect of the writing industry. Sandy's been on a couple times for about, writing music, and you write music as well.
Well, not only that, David, but as far as giving back, because obviously you're a mentor in a lot of ways to these people that you're working with, and I'm sure that there are other writers out there that are writing or are aspiring to write for production shows. So that is something
absolutely.
I'm sure you could give.
We'll
back
have to arrange that, David.
That'd be great. Love to.
I have a question for you, and I don't know
Sure.
how you're going to answer this, but you were talking about how when these people come and audition for you, and you have to turn them away, and you go, what a jerk, what a jerk. And I'm just curious, how many have come back to you after calling you a jerk and asked for a job?
All of them.
So there reaches a point to where you're no longer a jerk.
No, they never really called me a jerk. They just,
I know.
I know in their head they all think, that's the beauty about. I'll have people around my productions and office and stuff who'll say, "Oh my God, can you believe that person? And they're crazy and they act this way. And can you believe they're here again and whatever." I genuinely respect it and love it, and I appreciate. You have to be a little nuts to go on stage. You have to have something.
Sandy can relate to that.
I can relate.
And I can attest to that. So
it's crazy. I can't go up on stage and do that. So you got to just learn to love. I guess a good movie director knows actors and appreciates what's good about them. And I do. I appreciate the craziness when other people around me say they're crazy, they're a diva. I go, isn't that wonderful? Because if they were an accountant or a normal person, I mean normal like they're irregular, but if they're normal, they wouldn't be on stage. They're extraordinary people, and let's just focus on the good. And
right.
I think it's funny that there's so many. Sometimes, often people are a little delusional and they think their talent is a great. You guys have seen America's Got Talent, I'm sure. So that's pretty interesting to see somebody who really doesn't get it, but you want to help them and say what they should do, because I could see, I've just been doing this my whole life, how to put an act together and what they should do, and I can give people amazing advice and it would work and it would help them immensely. But you think a lot of these people, they've been told that a million times. They don't listen, so why even try? Because technically it's not my job to reinvent everybody's act or anything. But if they ask and they really want help, I love doing it.
And you just brought up something that's interesting, and I want your take on this. Just I'm trying to fathom how this is going to work. There's a major strip hotel in Las Vegas that the winner of this year's America's Got Talent is already guaranteed a show. And I was just wondering, how are they going to pull that off? Like, you think maybe they already have something prearranged and they're just going to slip them into that slot somehow? Or I'm just curious how that might work.
Well, I don't know. I do know showbiz, though, and it's all pre-negotiated and there's a lot of don't believe what you read, don't believe what you see on TV, don't believe that there's people writing that and the build up and all that stuff. I don't even know if Fremantle cares whatsoever about the live show. They make $27 billion a minute
on the television. Yeah.
and the live show, the best profit margin they can make is $55. So I don't even know if they care. They probably, because you and I know that the winner could be, some guy that plays a harmonica on a pogo stick. You can't do a whole show with that.
Right.
So it's almost like somebody probably in a boardroom was with all the heads and said, "But wait a sec, this guy can't really put on a whole show." And they go, "Who cares? We're just trying to sell TV show and it sounds great for ads." So, look, I have variety shows, and have been doing this in Vegas for a long time. And when the very first season, they were supposedly considering me as a judge on the show, and I tried helping them, and I gave them almost all their acts the first 3 or 4 seasons, and I've done a lot of work for them. And then they ultimately came to Vegas to compete with me. So I'm not a huge fan of them. Be honest, like I don't feel slighted, but I feel like, oh man, I got had. They're just doing a TV show and using people to make their ratings, and I'm really about building people up and longevity in the community, and not just kind of coming in for PR sake. And so I'm not a huge fan of that format.
That's great. David, I wanted to ask you a question about all of the shows that you have. Do they have some special seats available for seniors or groups of people, and how can they find out about that?
Well, we do have, I don't know.
You don't know? That's not your job, right?
No, I know we have some locals deals, and I know there's all kinds of stuff out there for people. I don't know.
Okay, so basically they just go to find out about the shows at the websites for that particular hotel, right? For the shows.
Right, so you can go to vtheater.com, vtheater.com or saxetheater.com, and it shows all our lineup. And then if they call the box office number there and then just ask them what they have, they'll probably know better than me.
So, David, how many shows do you have there at the Miracle Mile?
Oh, man. I don't know. A lot. I don't know, maybe 12, 13, 10, 12.
Wow.
I don't know.
Wow. And I wanted to ask you, I guess it's okay to ask you, how your mother is, Bonnie.
Oh, she's fantastic. She lives right by my house now. I did the dream that all boys dream at some point, and I finally bought her a house, and I walked her into it a couple months ago, and it's exciting for her. That was just a dream of mine. I always thought it'd be a car, because she used to always put that in my head. Buy me a Mercedes one day when you become rich. So I bought her a house, and she lives right by me. And then I dropped my kids off there, and she goes, "Now I see why you bought me a house. You want me to babysit for you."
Ulterior motives.
That's what she thinks. I'm like, no, but it is nice.
Now, I think your mom had something to do with the show you had at the San Remo's a few years ago.
Oh, absolutely. My mom, when we first started, my sister Melinda, when she became a magician, my mom produced the show, and I was in high school, and I was going there every night and being the sound guy, and then I started doing more and more, and kind of, my mom produced that, and then she and my sister were like two peas in a pod. They were hilarious, so they were constantly together and working on all that, and then they wouldn't listen to me. I was the little brother, so I would tell my sister my advice, and she'd smack me upside the head. So I started working. That's when I said, all right, I'm working on the acts. So I kind of worked on the acts, and her and my mom did her act and all that, and then it just developed throughout time and started doing more and more. But my mom was instrumental in all of this.
Well, your mother, I actually had the privilege of meeting your mother about 14, 15 years ago during that time when I had an arts group. And we actually met, and we were talking about her possibly being a guest on my arts group as a speaker.
Well, that's great. She was
a sweetheart back then, I know that.
She is genuinely just so nice. I used to get mad at her because she would just carry cash in her purse and give it to anyone who ever asked. Like, you just see lineups of whoever, anywhere in the casino, you'd see people in the back, like the cook would come back, "Oh, I can't pay my rent." She's like, "Here you go, sweetie." She just would always give everybody everything all the time. She's so nice. And then she started Showgirls of Magic, and that was at the San Remo, and she had that for years, and then she decided she wanted to close it down for some reason. I said, "Well, don't close it down. I'll take it over." So then I took that over, and so she's done a lot.
David, you've also done a lot of giving back to the community ever since you started achieving success. You're on the ALS of Nevada's Board of Directors. It says you raised $300,000 for the nonprofit by producing the All-Star Las Vegas show each February.
Yeah, when my dad got diagnosed with ALS, we didn't know who to turn to or what to do, and we found the Nevada chapter for the ALS organization, and so they would send a couple people over and help out throughout the week, because after a while my dad couldn't really move, and so they'd kind of give the nanny, or I call it nanny, caretaker, and myself, and a break, and they just formed a great relationship with them. They were amazing, and they helped out and told us what to expect, and got just machines and all kinds of stuff to help with them breathing, and I loved them. And then they my dad passed away, and then they said, well, David, we sure love being with you, and your father was the greatest, and looks like he was our last patient, though. There's zero money. We have no money to keep this thing. It's just a popular, it's not like a one of these children's charities or something where people are excited, and it's just there's a whole hierarchy in charities as well. Like most people who have ALS, it's terminal, and there's usually not too many spokespeople for it, and celebrity spokespeople. So it doesn't get them very much attention. So they had no money, and I said, you know what? I go, you just don't really know what I do, but I'm going to raise money for you. I'm going to an awareness, and I'm going to put together for ALS All-Star Las Vegas show, and just do a big thing like Night of Stars used to be for St. Jude. Just get all the stars on the strip, and we'll do something. We'll raise money. And they said, "Oh, okay." And they didn't even know what I did, so I invited them to the thing. We put it together, and it was a huge hit.
I think that's what's great about Las Vegas in many ways as well, because I was actually part of a fundraiser years ago, and it's how the art community, the performers, the producers, the directors, whenever someone needs something in this city, it seems like everyone can really get together and make it happen. Yeah,
absolutely. It's like that whole, we only know how to put on a show, so it's our solution to everything is, let me help, let me put on a show.
There you go.
So, it did great, and it kept them afloat, and then got them over a little hump there. So I felt very, very glad that I could help in that. I really believe in that.
Now, also,
charity.
Mayor Oscar Goodman awarded you the key to the city February 22nd, and February 22nd is actually declared David Saxe Day.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. I had, because of a lot of the stuff I've done in the community and everything, I didn't even know this was happening, but Larry Brown, Councilman Larry Brown, he was involved on the board as well as at the ALS charity. So unbeknownst to me, he had orchestrated this whole thing, and I had no idea. So somebody invited us to some dinner function somewhere. I don't know. It was a big ballroom, and there's all these people, and somehow I'm seated with fire chief, and I don't really run in the politician clique, and I'm just more showbiz, and I'm sitting here with all these politicians and people, and I'm like, what am I doing here? Why am I here? And I brought my wife too, and she's going, what are we doing? And we're just talking the whole time, and then Mayor Goodman comes out, and he's talking about somebody and something, and he's doing this whole speech, and I'm making jokes at the table going, oh my gosh, he's going on and on and on about this guy, just introduce him already, and everyone's laughing, and I have no idea. He's going about this guy. He's the greatest thing ever. And then he says, David Saxe, please come up here.
Wow.
It was a whole setup, like, to honor me. And I go, what? I felt like the biggest idiot. And I grabbed my wife. I was trembling. I go, you're coming up with me. You're coming up with me. So I bring her up, and she's trembling too. She goes, I don't want to go up here. I pull him up on stage, and he says, oh, look, and you gave me a gift, because I brought my wife up on stage. So it was pretty funny.
Well, that's nice.
He's funny. I really respect what he's done for
Las Vegas.
He's so pro business. It's amazing.
Well, David, you're humble too. It sounds like. Because,
I think so.
Because you're doing this because you're passionate about it. Again, I go back to the passion. Without the passion, you wouldn't be doing this. Right. You've got
exactly.
just such a commitment, and the kinds of things that you're doing. You're giving back to the community, not only with acts like this that you just pulled together, but also by hiring all these musicians and providing shows that are good shows that are able to bring in a lot of great talent and to honor them with what their talents are, and for you to appreciate them. Like you said, artists are a little bit right brain. We don't always fit into the regular world, as you said, the normal world, because we really have these things going on in our mind about being up there on stage performing, and we work our off to develop our skills. And as dancers, there's a lot of training that's involved. As singers, there's a lot of, planning and singing and vocalizing, and our body is our instrument, and it's so important to us. But the regular person doesn't see that. All they see is the end result, which is the performance, and often they say, oh, well, I could do that. Anybody can go up there and sing a song or do this, And so you really are appreciating them by putting on these productions that are so great in our town, and we really appreciate it. And it's really wonderful to be able to talk with you about it and to get some of the inside behind-the-scenes look at what really goes on. And I know that for James and me, we'd love to follow up in a couple of months or something, and be able to talk with you further as you're developing a new show, or and just share some of that with the audience, because the more that they understand about it, the more they really can appreciate when they do go see a show.
Well, if you're there with us while we're putting the show together, are we allowed to say bad words on the air?
We'll bleep those out.
There's going to be a lot of bleeps on it. Because the process is like laws and sausages. You don't want to see either one of those being made. I always added production shows. You don't want to see how that's made.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Like a sausage.
All right, David, we're going to go into the last minutes of the show here. And I'm going to start with Behind the Scenes, broadcast live every Tuesday here on KLAV here in Las Vegas, Nevada.
And we would like to thank our guest, David Saxe, for being on our premiere show.
And future lineups will be listed on the Aspects of Writing and WEMA websites. Just go to aspectsofwriting.com and click on the link for Behind the Scenes. And we broadcast live at 2 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time here on KLAV and on the internet at www.klav1230am.com.
You will be also able to view this live show immediately after this broadcast by going to youtube.com, Aspects of Writing, or youtube.com, Sandy Castell or WEMA Radio, and click on the feature button on the player.
Aspects of Writing broadcast live here every other Tuesday at the same time slot at 2 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And Sandy Castell's show airs live every Wednesday at 12 o'clock noon Pacific Standard Time here on KLAV.
And Dave, well,
I just wanted to bring up Sandy for a minute. You talked a little bit about WEMA, so
yes.
I guess we can do that. Go ahead and ask Dave your question, please.
Oh, I was going to ask him. Well, I just want to say that we really enjoyed singing. I guess I can't ask you any more questions because we're running out of time, unfortunately. But we'll be talking soon again.
David, thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you so much. I'm glad I was on your show.
This was a lot of fun.
Invite me back.
Absolutely.
All right. I'll go out and see David Saxe's shows and come and listen to us. We're Behind the Scenes with Sandy Castell and James Kelly every other Tuesday here on KLAV 1230 AM radio.
Thank you.